This is TWiT.
All right, so Microsoft's earnings came out. Give us the yesterday? Give us the top line.
Broad strokes. They're doing okay. Like I said, basically almost $22 billion in profits on $62 billion in revenues. Those figures are both up double digits. Revenues are up 18% year over year. They're doing great.
Hey.
No big changes with the top three business units, or the only three, I should say. Intelligent Cloud still number one, $26 billion in revenue, basically up 20% year over year. This is Azure, right? Productivity and business processes, Microsoft 365 essentially is almost $20 billion in revenues, up 13%. And then more personal computing closed the gap a bit because of Activision Blizzard, which we're going to get to. $16.9 billion in revenues, up 19%. If you pulled Activision Blizzard out of that business, we would, how we'd laugh at the rest of that, but they're looking pretty good. There's all these kind of, I have some bullet points here, but the more interesting stuff to me is going back and rereading the transcription of the call they have with analysts after the announcement. And obviously, everyone's asking questions about AI. How are you going to pay for this? How is this working? When are you going to be profit? How's this all working out? So there's a bunch of interesting stuff in there.
Did they actually answer any of those questions? Because I don't imagine they would.
No, they do. I mean, no, it's actually, this is the second time in the past year where I felt like their answers were actually pretty clear and, and not, obfuscating anything in any major way. So, I mean, I will also say, for whatever it's worth, Satya Nadella, I think he's a little bit wooden. But man, that guy can speak quite eloquently about AI. He loves it. Yeah. And I think that says a lot about him as a person, but also why the company is so serious about this. It's very clear he understood.
And this is the bet he's made, right? Like he's all in.
Yeah. But if you don't mind, let's start with Activision Blizzard, because I found this to be kind of interesting. Last summer, I ran some numbers on what Microsoft would look like if Activision Blizzard had been part of the company already, right? Mm-hmm. And now that they are, I'm delighted to report that the thing I wrote last July was really accurate. Like it's within like a 0.5 percentage point, and the broad strokes on that is that the impact on more personal computing is huge. The impact on Microsoft as a company, not so huge, right? Because Microsoft is humongous, right? We saw 62 billion, right? So I don't remember the exact numbers, but in that year I looked at, revenues from Activision Blizzard were in the maybe 2.4 billion range. Microsoft, we're talking 60 billion. So you can see it's a kind of a smaller deal, but
billion here, a billion there, you might actually show up on the balance sheet, right? Like it takes a lot to make a dent in that company.
Yeah, so more personal computing had really almost 20% growth this quarter. Microsoft Gaming.
Because of the acquisition.
Yep, huge, right? And it's all because of this, right? And so this is the deal. Microsoft also, speaking of clarity, explained in great detail how they're paying for the costs associated with this acquisition. I don't mean the $69 billion exactly. I'm talking more about the 10,000 people that came into the company when they bought this other company, all the redundancies, the layoffs, and all the the reorgs and all that stuff. And so there's actually kind of a neat little bit in there where they kind of talk about all that, and that the deal is within this fiscal year, those costs are all going to even out. The big takeaway for me going forward is that this business within a business, Microsoft Gaming, right now is operating at about 38% higher costs than they were like a year ago. And it's because
they laid off something like 2,000 from Activision already.
Yeah. And then from other parts. Yeah, right. So, this is a typical situation where you kind of bring this company in-house in this case, right? It's not a separate organization.
Yeah.
So you have all these redundancies all over that part of the company. So
the whole marketing engine is going to change. The HR group's changing. Like all of that's going to change.
Yeah. So hopefully they pick the best from the best and kind of go for it in that fashion. And, unfortunately there will be layoffs, like probably more in the future as well. But the goal is within the next, 5 months for this to kind of iron out. And then this thing will be like a net win going forward, I guess.
The question is are they going to leave the game teams intact? Because it doesn't seem like they've been really great with game development teams.
So with
Bungie.
Right. So without knowing explicitly, I don't remember the exact number, but Activision Blizzard across their 10,000 employees had several dozens, whatever the number was, of their own studios, right?
Right.
And Microsoft also has many, many studios of their own, and some of them
might be some facilities consolidation too.
Yeah, and I think it's possible that the big studios that worked under Activision Blizzard, the studios responsible for Call of Duty, et cetera, will probably be the same, that for the most part.
Well, in their cash, Call of Duty is a cash cow, but you have to ship a product to make that money on it. World of Warcraft and Diablo, now that's some serious cash cow, which they get monthly returns.
Yep.
And you have to produce a certain amount of content. So, if I was Satch's reporting to Satch about how this thing is going, it's like, is that team intact? Are they in track to keep folks engaged? World of Warcraft's gotten a lot of pressure from the Sony Final Fantasy online product. So they've got every need to be more efficient and to keep growing the pattern. And it's hard to be a new user into World of Warcraft. It's about keeping the existing market.
Depending on the studio, depending on the product, they're probably going to want to keep it, them where they are geographically, in roughly the same, situation they were before, right? Just keep them happy.
And you would think that a company like Microsoft that knows a lot about software developers you disrupt that team, it's years to get back to the same product.
And you may never actually get back. Yeah.
Yeah. You might break the product.
There's also a fear with Call of Duty. It's already been broken, and that we're just going to witness.
Blizzard broke it before they got their hands on it, so now they need a reboot.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. They've needed a reboot since they've wrapped up. I don't know, the initial set of Black Ops games, maybe. So whatever that was, 10 years ago. It's been a while, but
this is what happened to Halo, right? Like,
oh yeah. Yep.
There is a case story for you lose a team, or at least you lose the heart of the team, and now, what's the state of those products? But that's fine if you're just releasing titles. It's another thing when you've got a monthly, and you're going to watch your mistakes bleed you month over month.
That's really dark, Richard.
A little graphic, a little graphic, but it's the thing is, imagine you've bought a goose, it lays golden eggs.
Yep.
Don't screw it up.
Yeah. Now it's just bleeding.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes. We'll see. This is, I'm a simple person. I just want to see Activision games on Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah. And that's certainly part of the cross marketing and so forth. But, someone who's done a bit of M&A and been on the, how do we preserve the culture side of the problem? It's like, these are the things I would worry about, is how do I keep these key teams in place? How do we know there's going to be a new Call of Duty in 24?
One of the ways would be, how about some Microsoft stock options? Stuff's going through the roof right now. So just that would be one idea. I don't know. It is interesting though. Microsoft actually spelled out how much Activision contributed to the growth in the various parts of the business. And if this thing wasn't happening, we would be having a very different discussion about the future of more personal computing right now.
Well, very likely they'd be acquired something else. So they'd be going in that they would tell the story differently, Paul. Like they know how to keep their shareholders happy.
Well, right. But we're close enough to when they finally finalized this deal that if it hadn't gone through, they wouldn't have had a chance to do anything by now. Like we would have been witnessing what like an ugly holiday quarter looks like for a business that's based around gaming, which should be doing gangbusters, or at least it's partially through gaming. Anyway, I thought I sort of appreciated the clarity on that, although, it's Microsoft, right? So one of the things they reported was that they now have over 200 million monthly active users on Xbox, PC and mobile, and mobile for the first time, right?
200 million. That's a huge number.
It's a huge number, but of course, my first question was, okay, but what compared to what? Like, what was it before? And the only thing I could find, because they do this a lot, they don't do this quarter over quarter, but back in the July quarter, they mentioned that there were 150 million active users. At that time, they were just talking across the Xbox ecosystem. And so I guess it went up by 50, but they also talked about how Activision Blizzard brings hundreds of millions of users to Xbox. So it's like, if anything, you would almost think it should be higher, but it is a big number. You're right. So, Activision Blizzard has a pretty big reach.
Sure. For a relatively small number of people, when you think about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
All in all, it was a good buy for Microsoft, but I don't know. They don't have a great track record with game studios, except the ones they leave alone, right?
Right. And they're absolutely not doing that in this case.
Not this time around.
I think that was part of the marketing of this purchase, though, that they were going to fix the culture.
It was more because there was something to fix.
Yeah, I think that
purely cultural, right?
I think that might explain it. Yeah, but
and it's not like Bethesda's knocking it out of the park with every game they make either. Looking at you, Fallout 76. But that wasn't Microsoft's fault.
Right.
I would hope there's some folks from coming in on the ZeniMax level and saying, guys, are we doing the right thing? Are we building the right product? Are we making people happy? Because they've got some great labels too that would be well worth to Fallout is an amazing story that could be tapped in a lot of different ways.
It should be a series on Netflix. I don't understand why it isn't. And maybe it will be someday. Yeah. I mean, Half-Life is the same thing. Why has that not happened?
Well, because everybody that works for Valve is extraordinarily wealthy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Content middle-aged white guys. Yeah, that's right.
And so the upside to Activision Blizzard and Microsoft too is there's a routine set of hungry hires looking to get more of their stock units allocated, and you can get them to do stuff.
Right.
But the collective that is Valve, everybody's very well paid.
Yeah. Nobody needs another Tesla. Chances. Yeah, they're doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's mostly it on the gaming part of it. I work when I go through the earnings, I go kind of back to front because I focus mostly on the consumer stuff, right? And it's a small part of Microsoft in some ways, but it's getting more interesting thanks to Activision Blizzard and AI.
Yeah. I think this will be this time next year. The conversation about Activision Blizzard will be very interesting.
Yeah, well, AI too. By the way,
under Microsoft's control, getting through Christmas season, that's going to be a big deal.
I can't wait to see what.
I don't know if it'll be good or it'll be bad. I hope it's great.
I'm looking for it just being the same, which would be fine. But
if every one of their major labels ships a product in October this year, they'll have killed it. That's a win.
You have described something that Microsoft has never done with their gaming business, but I hope that happens too. I mean, we'll see. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but yes, I hope you're right.
And I hate to say this, but it's this is very Sinofsky-esque. Sinofsky was the trains run on time kind of guy.
Right. You want
someone, it's you will make the October deliverables for Christmas or you will be killed.
That can't. Oh, it does not work in games.
I don't know, but it is how games work, without a doubt. You have to write to the deadline, which is why you tend to ship lousy software, because you write to the deadline and we'll fix it in the DLC.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't want to beat gaming to death too much up front because we're going to return to this in a moment, at the end of the show, actually. But just to round out the rest of more personal computing, there's a little business called Windows that is also part of that.
Never heard of it.
Well, it's kind of an operating system for these big devices that you can't carry in your pocket. Yeah, it's like smartphones but dumber.
Hey, it's me, Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little snippet from Windows Weekly. If you want to see more and want to catch the whole show, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client or visit our website, twit.tv/WW. And of course, there's links right below me.